Thanks to our friend who supported the channel financially in the previous video. And before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel financially. He sighed again, his bitterness sinking deeper. Memories from earlier rounds resurfaced like bile, and he said to himself he could have partied with us, with me, Arin, and Sang Cheol, but he refused. Took only Minjuri with him. That decision had never sat right with him. He hadn't said anything aloud, but the rejection felt like a slap. Why Minjuri? Why not him? His eyes narrowed, swirling whiskey in his glass, ice clinking with each turn of his wrist. He said, his tone dark. He's always with that buffer. Are they dating? The thought twisted like a thorn in his chest. But he shook it off, scoffing, saying, "No way. Who'd like a guy like him? Rude, cold, acts like he's better than everyone else." Then a pause. His jaw tightened and he said, "Unless you're Christine." The name lingered in the air, hanging heavier than smoke. He took another swig of whiskey. Christine, elegant, composed, reserved. A healer with sharp eyes that saw through most, but not, apparently, through black scythe. He said bitterly, "She tries to hide it, but I can tell. She likes him." He had noticed those small glances, that softening of her voice whenever she mentioned black scythe. He hated how quickly she changed when that name came up. He muttered, "So what if he saved her life?" It doesn't mean she should fall for him. He slammed the glass on the table with a dull thud. The ice jumped. He shouted, "She has a fiancé, me." Though their engagement was more political than romantic, it still meant something, or it should. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration, saying, "A month ago I didn't even care who she liked. But now, seeing her look at him like that, his fists clenched. He didn't even know what he was feeling anymore. Rage, jealousy, despair, maybe all of them." Heavenly Demon added, "He's already number one. He's already the region's representative. Now he wants to take someone else's woman too?" Ma Kyung-rok was no saint. He knew it. But something about Black Scythe just drove him insane. The man was too perfect, too composed, untouchable. He spat, saying, "If I'd known this would happen, I should have saved her myself. Damn it!" Even the prophet came to mind now, and with him, a surge of misplaced irritation. And he said, "He must have known that black scythe would save her. Damn you, prophet." He stood abruptly, pacing across the room. He said, eyes flashing, "No, there's one way to stop this. If I can prove that Minjuri is his girlfriend, Christine will give up." It was a desperate thought, a petty one, but he clung to it like a man drowning. There was just one problem. He knew nothing about her. No name, no face, not even a guild affiliation. The same was true for Black Scythe. Both operated in shadows. No public appearances, no leaks, nothing, he asked himself. And what if she's not his girlfriend? The thought slowed him. Then came another wave of resentment. He said, "Even if she isn't, anyone would stick to her. With buffs that strong, speed, strength, reflexes almost doubled." His mouth twisted into a sneer, saying, "I'd love to have her beside me. Just imagine the advantage." He had even tried finding her once, her real identity, her address, but it was a dead end. Eventually, he gave up. With a grunt of irritation, he downed the rest of his whiskey. The bitter taste clung to his tongue. The ice rattled at the bottom of the glass like the remnants of a plan gone cold. He stared at the ceiling. He muttered with a smirk. Perfect night for a job. When the stress built too high, he knew what helped: killing. He walked to his laptop, booted it up, and logged into his secret server. Rows of names and files flashed across the screen. Criminals, targets, scum. He said, "Let's see who dies tonight." He was so immersed in scrolling through their records, scanning crimes, faces, addresses, habits, that he lost track of time. Dawn broke fully behind him, spilling golden light across the suite. His stomach grumbled. He muttered, surprised, "Is it this late already?" Breakfast time was long gone, but it didn't bother him. With his usual arrogance, he stood, stretching with a yawn. He added, "The chef will make something if I ask." He smirked to himself, already imagining bacon and eggs served with trembling respect. He had vengeance, pride. Just then, the sharp buzz of his phone broke the silence. He frowned and inquired, who could be calling at this hour? Glancing at the screen, he blinked in surprise and said, "It couldn't be." Then he swiped to answer, a trace of curiosity lacing his voice. "Yes, this is Ma Kyung-rok." "What? Really?" There was a pause. Then a burst of laughter exploded from his throat, the kind of rare, honest joy that startled even him. He laughed and said, "Thank you. Got it. Yes, goodbye. As he ended the call, his entire face lit up. The shadow that had hung over him just minutes ago was gone, replaced by an expression of disbelief and exhilaration. He whispered the words like they were some kind of spell. Kospi listing. Approved. He clutched the phone tightly, as if afraid it might all vanish if he let go. He laughed and said, "Just like the prophet said, Kospi listing in just 6 months." His voice echoed in the room, triumphant and breathless. A rush of memories flooded his mind. He thought of his father, Ma Dai-chul, a towering figure of success and cold expectations, the man who had always looked at him not with pride, but with disappointment, the man who constantly compared him to a younger version of himself. He said to himself, "My father'll be shocked." No, stunned. He never believed I could do it. He couldn't hold it in. Without hesitation, Ma Kyung-rok dialed his father's number with trembling fingers. When the line connected, he delivered the news like a child desperate for praise. And this time, he got it. A few words of surprise, a rare acknowledgement, and suddenly, the hunger he'd forgotten returned, but not for food, for validation. The whiskey sat untouched now, forgotten, because nothing in that bottle could match the high he felt now. He said, to get listed on Kospi wasn't just business. It was power, legacy, revenge. A company has to be over 3 years old, sales over 100 billion won, capital over 30 billion, net profits of over 6 billion across 3 years. He murmured the numbers to himself, shaking his head in amazement. He had met every condition, surpassed them. His player place co-enerlanity, the company reborn from the ashes of Chunma Consulting, had done what even he thought was impossible. And he said, "We're no longer a startup, we're a large corporation now. And more importantly, I've finally earned his recognition." Despite being the eldest son, Ma Kyung-rok had never once felt like the heir. He had the brains, the ruthlessness, the ambition, but his father's gaze always slid past him, as if he were invisible, because his expectations for him were too high. He could still hear the cold voice of Ma Dae-chul, scolding him during every family gathering. "At your age, I built Samsung Electronics from a scrap of nothing, grew it into a titan that holds 65% of our market cap. What have you done?" Those words had carved themselves into his mind like scars. No matter what he achieved, it was never enough. But now, he had done the unthinkable. Heavenly Demon said, he told me to start a company, gave me seed capital, said if I ranked in the top 30 on Kosdaq within 5 years, he'd name me heir. It was a deal. A contract written in cold blood. For 4 years he clawed and bled, pushing Chunma Consulting to its limits. But even after all that, they barely scratched 85th. With 1 year left, he had nearly given up. And then the world changed. The great change turned life upside down. Chaos reigned. Society trembled. But where others fell apart, Ma Kyung-rok adapted, and he said, "They say opportunities only come to those who don't give up." He met Ryu Min, the prophet, his benefactor, his turning point. With his help, the company transformed into player place market, and now, just 6 months later, they were listed on Kospi. It's all thanks to the prophet. A pang of guilt suddenly struck him, and he said, "Didn't I curse him this morning?" He'd been irritated, resentful of Black Scythe's growing presence. His anger had spilled over, and even the prophet hadn't been spared his silent blame. Now regret settled in. He said aloud, straightening his posture, "I'll welcome him properly when he arrives." After all, he had already called Ryu, inviting him to hear the news in person. The door creaked open, and a familiar voice entered. "Congratulations in advance, President." And Sang Cheol, his ever-loyal dog, gave a respectful bow. He had been there since the beginning, through every backdoor deal, every murder cleanup, every moment of rage and regret. Ma Kyung-rok smiled, this time warmly saying, "Chief An, you've worked harder than anyone." "Thank you." An bowed again, and he said, "I didn't do much." Ma Kyung-rok said, chuckling, "No, you did plenty. Without you, I wouldn't have gotten this far. You helped me relieve my stress more than anyone." They both knew what stress meant. Chief An had been the shadow behind every kill, cleaning up bloodstains, manipulating CCTV footage, ensuring not a whisper escaped. He was the loyal shadow to a man with a dark thirst. Then the bodyguard inquired, "Did you inform the chairman?" Ma Kyung-rok replied, "Yes." He didn't believe it at first, asked if it was really true. He laughed and added, Of course he didn't. Even I can barely believe it. The bodyguard asked, "Why didn't you tell the prophet?" He replied, "He already knows. Said he'd come to congratulate me. If that isn't a sign, I don't know what is." The mood was celebratory, so much so that Ma Kyung-rok personally arranged a party for the employees. A rare gesture from someone so cold. The bodyguard asked, "Did you have breakfast?" He said, "No, I forgot. When you've waited 5 years for something, you don't really feel hunger." His eyes were shining. The weight of those years seemed to lift from his shoulders all at once. And then a knock.